If you're a filmmaker or content creator, you have probably wondered more than once if there is a better way to store your files. You start collecting hard drives, files that you can find when you need them the most, and that question that always pops up: did I back this up? I was there too, and I'm not gonna lie, it was frustrating. But after years of collecting hard drives and wasting time searching for clips, I found a solution that changed my workflow completely. In this video, I will show you how I use a NAS to store, organize, and protect all my projects. Let's get to it. Until a few months ago, let's just say that my system for storing content wasn't the most efficient. Every time I finish a project, I will copy the clips from the memory card, dump them to an SSD hard drive, create a couple of folders with somewhat descriptive names to remember what I filmed, and move on to the next project. Years later, I ended up with hard drives all over the place. One SSD for client projects, another one for travel content, and a pile of lasty drives with labels that read backup, because let's be honest, losing content is the worst nightmare for any of us. But the real problem wasn't just the clutter. It was the time and frustration in trying to find when I needed it, just when I needed it. I realized that my so-called system wasn't a system at all, and I was only making my life more complicated as my projects grew. That's when I knew that I needed a better solution. This is the Synology DS1823XS Plus. You have never heard of the term, a NAS, Network Attached Storage. It's essentially a hub for securely store all your content. And what's so special about this NAS? It has 8 bays, which means that you can load it with 8 hard drives or SSDs, or even extend it and use it with 18 bays with compatible drives. In my case, I currently have 6 drives installed, all designed specifically for this NAS, so I have the reliability when it comes to storing all my work and content. And that's the best part. It's scalable. You can start with just a couple of disks and add more in the future as your storage needs to grow. But it's not just about having lots of space. A NAS offers above all accessibility. Once it's set up, you can access your files from anywhere, even while traveling. Collaborate with colleagues or editors in the middle of a project by sharing your files with them, or even back up your content remotely thanks to the active backup feature offered by the NAS. Before I continue, I want to make a short pause and be honest with you guys. Synology didn't pay me to make this video. In fact, I was the one who contacted them because I was already planning to invest in a NAS earlier this year. They were kind enough to send me one so I could incorporate it into my current workflow and share what I think and show you guys how to use it. Now let me show you how I install it in my home office. Setting up your NAS may sound complicated at first, but believe me, it's much simpler than it sounds. The main thing is to choose the RAID configuration that best suits you. And if that sounds a bit technical, don't worry. Think of a RAID as a sort of extra layer of security for your files. Basically, this configuration distributes your data across multiple disks. So if one fails, you don't lose any of your content because it can be automatically revealed with the information from the others. I, for example, chose a RAID 5 configuration because it gives me a good balance between security, storage, and speed. I recommend you to take a look at other videos that explain other types of RAID, or you can always ask any questions you have to the Synology support team who can guide you through the whole process. Something that is also very important is where to place the NAS. Ideally, you should place it in a safe place with good ventilation and close to an Ethernet cable so it can connect to your network. I've placed mine in a cabinet here at home, and as you can see, I made a couple of holes in the back to pass the cables and connect it directly to my router. To get the most out of it, I installed a 10GB card in the back of the NAS, and together with an adapter, now I can connect it directly to my MacBook Pro. This was quite new for me because I had always used USB and USB-C cables with external hard drives, but with this 10GB connection, I can read and write files super fast, almost if I were using my usual SSDs. And best of all, once connected to my network, all I have to do is open my Finder on my Mac and I have directly access to all my files on the NAS. At this point on the video, you might be asking yourself, do I really need a NAS? If you work with lots of content, both video and photo, it's easy for storage to become an issue. In the beginning, we have all used different types of hard drives and the cloud to store and back up our content. But now with the NAS, I've simplified all of this. I store, edit, and share my projects directly from one place, saving time, money, and lots of the headaches that I have had in the past for not having my content well organized and easily accessible. And by this, I don't mean that I have stopped using other types of storage devices. SSDs are still a key element when traveling and I need quick access to lots of files. But once I return home and I finish a project, I dump all the files into the NAS and the SSD is ready for future ones. Thanks to the Hyper Backup feature, I can perform regular backups from the NAS to cheaper external drives by connecting them via USB and always keep my files in at least 2 devices. Is it a perfect system? Not yet, but it's a big step forward. My intention is in the future to have a third device for store my backups, such as another NAS, and in a different location, automatically synchronized. This will add an extra layer of security against unexpected events such as thefts or any kind of catastrophe. And I get it, a NAS is not cheap. Considering the cost of other storage methods, a setup like this costs over 3,000 euros. An amount that, especially when you are starting out, you will probably prefer to invest it in a camera lens and use cheaper alternatives in the meantime. But for me, having a NAS was a big change. It helps me organize my projects better, especially now that I work more frequently and I have to handle much larger files. So for me, it will hadn't been just an expense, but an investment in the way I work and grow as a filmmaker. I hope this inspires you to start organizing your content, whether it's because you decide to invest in a NAS or simply to better structure your storage system. Like I said, it's not essential, but it's definitely a good long-term investment. That's all for today. Hit the like, subscribe, and leave me your questions in the comments, whether it's about this setup or anything that intrigues you. I hope you enjoy one of my first YouTube videos. Until the next one.